Welcome to the Joe Cohen Show. Join me as I share my experience with biohacking and invite top health experts to explore the latest technology, supplements, research, and resources for optimizing your body and brain. Hello, Siim. I'm here with Siim. This is just going to be a conversation. We're both in India right now doing a bunch of health testing. And it's pretty ad hoc, so we'll see what comes of it. How are you finding the program so far?
It's very advanced in terms of all the different tests that you do and just a full comprehensive overview of your body, like your biomarkers, your urine analysis, DEXA scan, your fitness tests. It's like a 360 for your entire body, and I think it's very good.
Yeah, so we're both leading the small groups here just to experience the program. It's the I Will program, but we both are bringing some people with us when we go. I personally I try to go as much as I can here just to get continuous testing and treatments and just different kinds of stuff that's more easily accessible here. Yeah. When's the last time you did all these, like the blood tests?
I think I haven't never done that many biomarkers. So the test here is 180, right?
It's more. So it's 181 plus
the urine.
Plus the 36 amino acids.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, so I've never done that many biomarkers, but I think that's for a comprehensive overview, it's very, very good.
Yeah. What's the most you've ever done? What was the most comprehensive?
I think the Inside Tracker, I guess, they measure 45 or 50 something biomarkers.
Yeah. I don't know how comprehensive that is.
That's not obviously all of it's not as relevant as this one. They don't measure some things I guess they don't measure IGF-1 or some other biomarkers, but it's pretty good, especially for a home test.
Who doesn't measure it?
The Inside Tracker doesn't measure IGF-1 or a few other markers. It's a home test, so it's not, you can't expect a lot.
Oh, it's a
finger prick.
It's a finger prick.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here they come and take your blood.
I got 2 different blood tests today. I take one when I come and one when I go here.
Yeah. Is there a difference?
Absolutely. Yeah, every time. So number one is there's some natural fluctuation depending on just any number of factors. Also, if you're fighting an infection, all the markers change pretty much. Almost all of them, right? So that's very relevant. And often when you're traveling, you might be fighting an infection, so it's relevant. And it's also good to know how your markers change when you are fighting an infection, I find. So even though it changes, I can now see when I'm fighting an infection just based on my markers. Even if I don't have any symptoms, I could see based on these markers fighting an infection. And I've done that 3 times when I was fighting an infection. I think we're all get infected, but it's all the time. It's just that how often do you experience symptoms and things like that. But it's interesting. There's a lot of things that are similar, but there's also each infection has its own thing. Like one time my ferritin went down from 110 to 5 in a matter of 5 days. That's when I was fighting an infection. And it's that's known to happen, but not every infection does that occur. Sometimes ferritin can go up, but it really depends on the type of infection. Usually the thing that's I found most common is vitamin D goes down in all of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all 3 times vitamin D went down. And pretty dramatically. If you, for example, get it tested when you're having to be fighting an infection, then your results are going to be completely different. You might think you have low vitamin D, where once the infection goes, which is why one of the things you do is you take more vitamin D.
Right.
But besides the infections, but then also you want a baseline. Sometimes you want to make sure something is abnormal twice before you would start treating it per se, right? For whatever reason, it could be infection, it could be anything, right? Maybe you didn't sleep that well that night, or who knows, right?
Yeah, I usually notice the white blood cells, like neutrophils, go down with an infection, and
sometimes they go up. It depends, right? So it's the same thing. It depends on the infection, but they don't stay the same usually. Sometimes they do, though. Sometimes it doesn't. With a lot of the infections the ones that I caught and the blood test, didn't actually affect the white blood cells that much,
Mm.
but a lot of them do, right? Sometimes it could either bring it down, sometimes it's known to bring it up. If your
Yeah.
white blood cells are very high, it's usually you're fighting.
And even like the overtraining, I noticed that if you like too much exercise or something, that also lowers.
Oh, that
blood
can,
cells.
yeah.
And if you look at the HRV, and that usually can also go down, both with overtraining and with infections. So it's hard to which one am I doing?
So there's a lot of things change.
Yeah.
HRV, white blood cells, pretty much everything could change
Yeah.
when you have an infection. So that's why, and even if you're just fighting something, you might not notice it.
Mm.
A few times, one time, it was like super clear I had the infection, and then I didn't notice it. And then what happened was that because I had a flight at night, I didn't sleep the whole night.
Mm.
Then I had symptoms the next day. I think normal situation, I probably would have fought it off. Because I didn't sleep that whole night because of the flight, all of a sudden the next day I started feeling it.
Mm. Yeah.
And I felt better after a day, but essentially I even did have some fever. But it was interesting that you saw that you had the infection. This time I got an infection and I didn't have any symptoms. Just for a few hours I thought I might have something, and then it went away.
Mm.
So then
What do you do if you notice that it might come?
So I have protocols. There's a bunch of interesting things that I've figured out recently that are quite important. One I think is like glucosamine.
Mm.
Glucosamine is actually pretty good against infections. People don't realize that. They think of it as like joints and stuff.
Right.
But actually it's good for preventing infections. That's one of the reasons that it actually helps promote lifespan.
Mm.
Is because if you prevent infections when you're older,
Right.
you probably are going to live longer. So
Yeah.
it's associated with lower mortality. I think that's probably the number one reason.
Mm.
So yeah, that collagen. So collagen. These things are collagen is more going to help prevent infections. I don't know if it's going to help the infection when you have it. When I have it, I'll do some glucosamine, zinc, vitamin D.
Mm.
And then I'm going to, I'll also take, so this is what I started doing. It's been working so far. I take thyroid hormones.
Thyroid.
Yeah.
Okay.
And thyroid hormones just improve the immune system. And a lot of people have, if you have lower levels of thyroid hormones, mine tend to be on the lower end, which seems to be common
Mm.
when I see other people tested. I think the T3 should be above 100.
Mm.
Have you tested your T3?
Yeah, usually it's still like in the normal range.
Normal range doesn't mean, but what, do you remember the number by any chance?
No,
No.
we can look at it later
Yeah.
in the blood work, but not.
But we're also, we'll get your results as well. But most people, I think the T3 should be above 100. Mine sometimes is above 100, sometimes it's like in the 90s. But one of the things that brings it down is carnitine, which is very good against infections, but then it also brings the thyroid hormone. So what I do is now I take thyroid hormones plus the carnitine together.
Okay.
And if I feel, it's pretty new, but it seems to help.
I take some melatonin as well, like a large dose, at least before bed. But if I'm feeling that, like either sick or catching something, then just try to myself to just take a very large dose of melatonin for the immune system and the antioxidant benefits as well.
Interesting. I also take glutamine. That's something that helps the immune system. What else do you? And I also make sure. I guess I take it every day, but B vitamins, they tank when you have an infection,
Okay.
and vitamin A also tends to go down.
Mm.
So vitamin A, vitamin D, B vitamins, glutamine, amino acids. Your body needs the amino acids to fight off an infection.
Mm.
And one of the things that I realized with some of this testing is that, I did it twice already since I've been here, is the histidine always tends to be low.
Mm.
And histidine is also important for immune function. So I think it really, if you're deficient in most amino acids, it can hinder the immune system in some way.
For sure, yeah. And just the overall health, amino acids are essential for life. So,
Yeah, so I think that's why I'm a big fan of the amino acid test. They only recently added it, and because I told them to add it, because each amino acid is extremely important on its own, right? Like, how much research is there on arginine, on leucine, on branched chain amino acids, glutamine, glycine? You want to know what the hell is going on in your blood. In self-decode, we have these genetic predispositions, but you still, obviously, it's more important to see in your blood, see where you're actually at right now.
for sure.
And some of them you don't want to be high, like isoleucine. You want it to be on the lower end because it's problematic in a bunch of ways for aging.
Yeah.
Whereas if any of them are lower, lysine, leucine, like any of the essential ones, tryptophan, histidine, you're just going to create problems because each of these things do so many things. So you got to check. That's why I think it's like really important. And then for me, arginine was also a little low. And it was because it was being converted to ornithine. So my ornithine was like higher.
Okay.
My arginine was lower. My citrulline was in a good level. And so arginine converts to citrulline, agmatine, and ornithine. Those are the three things that it could convert to. And so they test the citrulline and the ornithine. And so my ornithine was high, very high. Apparently, because I'm getting enough arginine, that's not the problem, right? My diet is very protein-based. It's like I'm eating tons of protein. Now, when you take for the vast majority of I think for all the amino acids, when you take them, your serum levels do go up. The question is how long, but they do go up. And so if you're low, that means you're using it for something, right? And so I was trying to figure out why. So the arginine is clear. I'm using it for ornithine. For some reason, it's just going. Could be ornithine is good. There's a supplement, and if you're low in ornithine, you could take it. Right. But that's another thing is I was actually taking ornithine for some time, and it turns out that, and not during this test, so it wasn't from that. Then now it turns out that I don't need it, of course, because I'm converting to that very well, even too well. So it's more like I need more arginine. And I wanted to convert more to other things. Now what I'm trying out is L-norvaline, which is an arginase inhibitor, meaning it stops it from going into ornithine. Okay. And so I did a test today, and we're going to see how that's working out for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
So basically, I think every amino acid that you're taking, also glycine, you also want that, you want it to be higher. And so when you take it, your serum levels do go up for a few hours. It's got a short half-life, but you could see where you are in the blood and see if you're on the lower end, you definitely should be taking more glycine, right? Yeah. And there's no way to predict it because most of my diet is protein. It's like, why would I be low on histidine and arginine? And
do you get any symptoms of that, or what are some symptoms of that? Or?
There's no nothing's like abnormal to the point where I'm getting like, symptoms. It's just because I know my body really well, and I know like very nuances of things, like how it's not working 100%. There's things like there's areas where I want to improve, and it turns out that histidine can improve those areas. That's why it's not only that it's low, that it's like these certain areas that I want to improve. So, for example, histidine is good for immune function. And I was actually looking at it like, okay, before I even took the test, what are all the amino acids that are important for immune function? Because I want to improve my immune system. I felt like it's improved massively over the years, but I started out in not a great place. And so it's something that you never want to get sick, right? Yeah. So it's even if you get sick twice a year, you're like, how do I improve my immune system? Or once a year, you want that to be 0, right? Or if you get sick, you barely want to feel it, pretty much. You just want to keep going, and it's not a problem. So for me, it's not a problem, but it's something I want to still improve my immune system, and histidine can help do that. So can arginine, right? Most of the amino acids, it can in some way or another. So, but you don't want to just take a bunch of amino acids. Right. If I already have good levels of something, I don't want to take amino acids. And I think for arginine, it's because my ornithine is higher, I want to instead inhibit that arginase. And so fish oil does that, but I take a good amount of fish oil. And then there's certain other supplements that could do it to some degree or another. So that's the experiment now. But histidine, the interesting thing with histidine is, so when I got the second result, so then I got my second result. I'm like, okay, this is not a fluke. I'm low twice, and both times I'm eating a high protein diet here. And so I said, okay, I'm going to take 1.5 grams of histidine. So I took it at 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. And then I could not go to sleep until 9 a.m. Whereas like normally my pattern was like I would go to sleep at 1, and then I never have problems with sleep. So like never, like I always feel tired, and I'll have to force myself out of it to stay awake. Here I was just, my eyes were like this, boom. I was like super awake. And the answer was that it was creating histamine, and histamine, it's known that histidine converts into histamine. When you take histidine, your histamine goes up in the brain, in the gut. And so there wasn't any like specific thing, but yeah, it's for wakefulness, energy levels, it's something that you also want to improve. And I thought immunity, and then one of the things I actually wanted to improve was my gastric acid. I felt like I wanted more gastric acid. I tried HCl, I chewed some gum, which obviously helps, but I felt like, okay, what do I do that's more basic to help that? And so histamine increases gastric acid. And I think that, yeah, so it could be that like, I'm definitely not producing enough histamine. And it could be that the histidine is just being converted to other uses, which are good. Pretty much histidine is one of those things that when I was looking into whatever it's converted to is actually like pretty good. Some of it could be used for, is like if you're working out, some of it gets converted into 3-methylhistidine and things like that. But it gets converted to histamine, carnosine, homocarnosine, which has also got benefits similar to carnosine, and serine, which also has benefits. And then, yeah, and there's a bunch of proteins that use histidine as well. And so, but yeah, for me, it was like clear. Take histidine and histamine, and I didn't have any, for some reason it doesn't increase allergies. So normally if you increase histamine, you increase allergies. I'm already like Th1 dominant, so I'm not predisposed to allergies very much. But even when they gave it as a supplement, it doesn't seem to increase allergies. So it's not clear why that is, but you do have the positive benefits from histamine, especially if you're somebody low, right? Again, maybe not, right? You have to test. So the fact that I have certain kind of signs, I wouldn't say they're like symptoms. There's no symptom, like my gut is fine. I don't have any infections or anything like that. It's just that there's a sense of, yeah, I think it could be more acidic, right? And histidine seems to do that trick actually. And it's also like, hey, I think I could be more wakeful in the day. So instead of taking a nicotine 1 milligram a day or every other day, whatever, I don't take it much. But histidine is just as powerful. So it's, you know what I'm saying? It's not like a problem. It's,
Optimization.
Yeah, it's an optimization.
Yeah.
So and I like doing that at a fundamental level. So like nicotine is not a fundamental level, right? It's a hack.
Yeah.
But the amino acids, the nutrition, these are like the more fundamental things. And if you're low on one of these things, you have to know where your weak points are in nutrition and amino acids.
That reminded me of, we were talking about your story of the histamine. Did you try out like the IVOs, the sleep stack or something, that they give you some supplements for the sleep?
Oh, I know that sleep stack. I have my own sleep stack.
Yeah.
It's going to knock you out.
I took it yesterday and
it's going to it's a tranquilizer.
Yes, I was like hit like with a bus or
yeah.
so strong.
No, I know what it is. So I'll tell you what it is. I actually added to some of that formula. One of them is doxylamine, which is an antihistamine. So wakeful. Basically, I actually could have just taken an antihistamine and I probably would have fell asleep.
Right.
But I actually wanted to see what happened, like how long of the impact it was going to have. And so 12 hours was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Right. And then I didn't sleep much that day. Woke up 3 hours later. But so that was just an experiment. But the antihistamine is blocking the H1 receptors. And that's what makes you fatigued. And so the reason why they're using doxylamine is because it has the shortest half-life among the antihistamines. Generally, antihistamines, first of all, they're not designed as sleep aids. It's first generation, because by accident, they cross the brain barrier. It's just a general thing. And so they cause sleep. They cause you sleepiness. But obviously, most of the people using it are because of histamine-related allergies, and they don't want it in the brain. They want it in the rest of the body. So then the newer generation ones, they don't pass the brain barrier and they don't cause you to be sleepy. But then out of the older ones, you wanted a longer half-life so that it has more of an effect over time. Whereas if you're just using it for sleep, you don't want to wake up the next day really groggy. And it's still long enough that you'll wake up groggy.
Yeah, we woke up and we were like, even like until 12 the next
Yeah.
night, so like over 12 hours.
But if you take a different one, it would be like the whole next day or something. So it's still shorter. So they give you doxylamine, which it's part of my stack of if I'm changing time zones. I think that's why they're giving it to everybody here, because you're changing a time zone and you really want to force that. You really want to force it. So you take that at 9 p.m. here, you're just going to start going to sleep an hour later, right?
Yeah.
The other one is what I contributed to was meclizine. So meclizine is, I normally take meclizine if I want to go to sleep. Depends on what kind of, how strong I want to do it. But meclizine does cause sedation. It's an antihistamine as well, and it has other sedative properties. But it also is an mTOR inhibitor. It extends lifespan in animals. And so if I'm going to take something, might as well take something that's going to extend lifespan, right? And it happens to be, that's my favorite, is the meclizine. It doesn't cause the drowsiness the next day. Reasonably short half-life. It has multiple mechanisms against muscarinic receptors, dopamine, acetylcholine receptors. And so that's like, for me, that's like number one. A small dose of melatonin. So there's also melatonin they put in there, which...
Yeah, the slow release.
Yeah, the slow release melatonin. And I think the slow release it's going to make you a little groggy the next day because of the slow release. But if you take it early enough, I think it's okay. So the idea is you want to take it early enough so that you really move your schedule forward. And then, so there's the meclizine, the melatonin, and the doxylamine. Those are the three main things.
I think there was magnesium as well and glycine.
They added theanine, but or maybe they gave you two separately, the magnesium. But the three main things you get in a little bag is the meclizine, the melatonin, and the doxylamine.
Gotcha.
And they're all useful, of course, for changing time zones and things like that. And then I have another one, which is also has some unique mechanisms. Is the small dose trazodone, 25 milligrams. So that blocks the serotonin 2A receptors, and then it also blocks the adrenergic receptors. So I took that and the meclizine, and it was like, I was like, oh, like I cannot stay awake. It was just, it was very strong. So I don't know. It's not for me. It's if I want to force it. If I change a lot of time zones and I really want to force it, just take melatonin, trazodone, meclizine. And if I really want to go crazy, the doxylamine. But like I have all of them ready to go. And then I actually have another one that's not a sleep aid. But for some reason, when I take it, it makes me sleepy by increasing the immune system, I think. It's called Pariah. It's not a common one, but essentially, I just noticed that when I take it, it just makes me sleepy. So
What is the compound? Pariah?
The name of the plant is a mushroom.
Okay.
And I don't think it's supposed to cause sleepiness, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to other people. I just think that for me, I don't know, it boosts a certain kind of immunity that makes me sleepy. I ran out of it already for this trip, so I don't have it here, but I don't know if it works that way in other people, but I just, so that's also part of it. If you increase the immune system in certain ways, you'll get sleepy. Which is why you're more sleepy when you're fighting an infection. Yeah. Even though it increases histamine, which technically should make you awake, it's doing other things like just overall increasing the immunity, and you're a little more sluggish. But I don't take anything every night. I try not to take the sleep stuff like that. This is a sleep hack for if I'm changing time zones, if I stayed up too late or whatever. If I feel like I need to go to sleep. Yeah. The meclizine is the only one I'm comfortable with, just because of It's got a large safety profile and the animal studies with longevity. So that's the only one. I don't mind taking it. I don't, I think, and it also improves my sleep markers. Like it improves it makes me sleep longer, improves deep sleep, a little bit of REM sleep. What's your sleep stack like?
Usually I'll stick to some of the basics like magnesium, glycine. I'll take like a small dose of 0.3 milligrams of melatonin, not every night, five days of the week. And I use like this herbatonin, which is made of plant phytomelatonin. It's like one of the company, Symphony Natural, they have, I guess they're patented or something. They have done some studies as well on it where they compare the phytomelatonin to synthetic melatonin. It's 470% more antioxidant potential and like 900% more ORAC score than the regular synthetic melatonin.
Interesting.
And it has like lists of the side effects for the grogginess or the wake up or stuff like that. It works very well. It's very like a small dose, 0.3.
Yeah, but I think 0.3 probably doesn't cause grogginess.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody really.
Yeah, but if you take even, there's the 3 milligram as well, they have 0.3 and 3 milligrams. And I just don't notice any issues at all with it if I take the plant melatonin. That's very...
You notice issues with a small dose of non-plant melatonin? I take 300 micrograms of
regular
melatonin.
Not
I don't feel anything one way or another, but...
Yeah, not in those doses. Those very small doses, I would have to take very large
right.
to notice, but I think, it's interesting that the just has more of this antioxidant potential, because I take melatonin for the longevity benefits or the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory benefits,
right.
Not necessarily for the sleep, because like melatonin as a hormone is just, I think melatonin is like more powerful than glutathione in some ways,
right?
Because of its coordinates all the repair and antioxidant processes in your sleep. So I'm like a huge fan of melatonin, and you also see that with age the melatonin goes down, and then the hallmark of aging also increase after like the 40s or 50s.
Interesting. And so, yeah, I find that when I take anything at night, like for some reason any of the natural stuff, except like maybe 300 micrograms of melatonin and that other thing, the poria that I discussed, if I take like all the stuff that is spoken about to improve, it actually worsens my sleep. Like magnesium, glycine, theanine, whatever. And even like higher dose melatonin. It's like I'll wake up early. The meclizine just works every time, and then the low dose trazodone. Oh my gosh, wow, that's incredible.
Have you tried reishi mushrooms?
It worsens my sleep.
Yeah, I always get like crazy dreams if I take reishi, like the very weird semi-lucid dreams, like you see the dreams and they're like very weird scenarios. It doesn't make sense at all.
Do your sleep results change in REM? Because if you're getting more lucid dreams...
Yeah, I mean, it does, I think, increase REM. So that's where it comes from.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I take that back. Yeah, so it does help. There's a specific kind of reishi, not all of them. Every mushroom is like different, even if it's the same reishi. There's one type of reishi that seems to help, yeah. They have it in these powders, these packets. Four sigmatic. That one makes me tired. So if I take that,
T1.
the T1, yeah, it makes me tired. The other ones don't really. Everyone has a different effect. Depends on the extraction method and all the different how it's grown. But that one, for some reason, it makes me more sleepy. Seems to improve REM a little bit. But the reason I think I don't take it is because it also makes me pee more. So you got to be careful that whatever you're taking, it doesn't make you pee more in the middle of the night. And I think like magnesium does. It's part of the problem with a lot of these things, that they make you pee more.
For sure. And if you take tea, the tea is a diuretic and can make you go to the toilet. But I like it like a small relaxation, but I might go to the toilet like once per night.
Oh, you do? But I think that's damaging. Meaning,
I don't know, like my sleep scores themselves are good, or like I get...
But overall, I find that when you wake up, first of all, it's like logistically, it's harder not to get any light. Probably, like I wear my glasses. I have low lights. You have the same thing.
Yeah, through the window, there's like some of the background light is coming through. It's never like completely pitch black.
So that's one problem is light, and then the other problem is sometimes I don't know what if I'd wake up in the middle of the night. Sometimes it'd be harder. Like it would take me like an hour to go back to sleep.
Have that issue.
But then in general, yeah, I don't know. Like I haven't woken up to pee maybe like once in the past year. And I think that's probably from a few things, but one of the things is not taking stuff unless it's like very specific that like right before I go to sleep, because then I need to pee in the middle of the night.
Right.
Like I'll wake up in the middle of the night needing to pee. And it's not terrible. If you're managing it fine, then it could work. But I think in general, the more continuous the sleep, all things, meaning it's better that you're not waking up, getting up, peeing, going back. It is disrupting something, right? It's still going to take you maybe 10 minutes to go back to sleep or whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, just have to look at the biomarkers and the sleep.
What is your biomarkers? What's your REM sleep like? And deep sleep? How many hours? Or
With the deep sleep, it's usually 2 to 3 hours, and REM sleep is all around 2 hours, something like that.
oh, that's very good. Yeah, so that works. If you're getting 2 hours REM, and then 2 to 3 hours deep.
Yeah, like I said, I guess about
And how many total hours?
on average, maybe, I guess 8. So like 7.5, maybe sometimes 9, but more like 8.
On average 8. Okay.
But even that's like at my age, I can get away with doing more fragmented sleep or something. With the age, the older I get, at like 50s, the sleep fragmentation is going to be part of the program, or you're naturally going to have worse quality sleep with age, and that's at that point it might become a problem because of the not.
Yeah, a lot of people have sleep problems even at a younger age. I've never had deep sleep problems, except there's certain things that can ruin it.
Yeah.
Marijuana seems to lower my deep sleep, so I don't know. It's not very good for me, but the REM sleep I've never been able to get. I think the maximum I got was like I need 1 hour and 15 minutes as my minimum, and then but I don't really get more than, unless I'm like really like making up sleep. If I had sleep deprivation, then I make it up. I'm not getting more than 2 hours. Like it's usually 1.
Yeah, what I've noticed was that if I wake up too early, so let's say in the past I might have woken up at 6 or 5 a.m. and I just wake up early and I cut the REM short, because the second half of the night is where I got more REM. So like I've always got good enough deep sleep because I went to bed like 10 p.m. and I got plenty of deep sleep, but I woke up before the REM sleep was able to like finish, and I was like cutting myself short from there. But now I sleep a bit longer, and I guess I'm like getting the tail end of the REM sleep as well.
Yeah, I think for me, one of my worst probably health habit is not having a consistent sleep schedule. It seems like that's the hardest thing for me to do. Just because...
Even when you're like at home or...
Yeah, because where I live in Tel Aviv, there's something happening every night, right? And it's like a city that all the things happen at night. So it's like people do things after work. So it's happening at night. People working 9 to 5, whatever it is, 6. Any event is going to start at 9 minimum. Nobody's even going to show up till 10.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter what it is. Let's say I'm doing acro yoga. The classes start at 7, or the earliest ones. Some of them start at 8:30, 8:40, and then they'll end at 10 or whatever. It's just like you come home, you need to eat after, whatever, and then all of a sudden, you're not going to go to sleep before 12. It's just not practical.
Yeah.
And it's the same as like dance classes. Like the dance classes, if I want to just be a hermit, I could go to sleep at whatever. But if you want a social life, everything's happening. If there's a party or if there's anything happening, it's usually at night. And again, even if I'm not going to the parties, if I'm doing healthy stuff, like acro yoga or whatever, it's at night.
Yeah, and you get some other benefits from doing that, like the socializing and communication. It might outweigh the sleep deprivation or the sleep inconsistency, because if you look at the blue zones or Mediterranean countries, they all do the same. They all go out at night and they all under blue light,
Latin,
they're drinking wine and eating. No one is doing early time trial eating
Right,
in those
exactly,
countries. And it's probably there's something other benefits that you get from that experience or you don't necessarily need to be optimal with the sleep or the whatever the fasting window if you're getting some the other benefits that make up for it.
Right. Any kind of event, any date, it's like, oh, let's go on a date. If you're not going to be like, oh, let's go at 1:00, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to be like, you know what I'm saying? You might have certain hacks here and there, but you can't get away from the whole thing. If the culture is a certain way, you can't escape it unless you want to be a loner, and then the other thing is if you're traveling, whatever you did is also resetting. And so it's like, now I went to Amsterdam, then India, been here for 3-4 weeks. Now I'm going to the US and then I'm gonna go back, and then it's just so even being somewhat so that also causes some inconsistency every time you travel.
For sure.
So you really have to not travel or have a partner that is committed to doing the things the way you want to do it, which some people have, right? And that's great. You probably have that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we both have the same sleep schedule, and yeah.
You both want to go to sleep early. You're not going to parties, and I don't think there's that much stuff going on in Estonia in general.
There are every city has their own events and stuff like that.
But you're not in the city, are you?
We are right now. We are in Tallinn, the capital, and sometimes we go for some events. But yeah, like on a regular night, it's gonna be like just the same habitual.
But the thing is, if you go for an event once a month, then that's one thing. But if you're going twice a week, you're already screwing your sleep schedule up. So it's really like you have to be like once a month is probably the max. But it's how often do you go out and stay up late?
Maybe like once every 2 weeks or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what time are you going to sleep at that point?
I guess 1 or 2 a.m. something like that. Yeah.
So you're breaking your rhythm. Yeah.
Then I do notice it next day in terms of like slightly less of focus or energy, but
exactly.
But I also usually don't like exercise on those days, so I have less sleep demand as well. So I'm very able to sleep only 3 or 4 hours and still function normally, but only if I don't have a lot of sleep demand from exercise or something. Because the reason, naturally, if I don't exercise, I would sleep only 6 hours probably.
Okay.
I just don't need that much sleep, or I feel that I don't need it. But
you're saying sleep demand from exercise the day before or the day after?
Before. So the night, if I were to go out, then I wouldn't exercise. I would just
interesting.
Take a rest day, because I know that I'm going to be going out, for example, and then I wouldn't want to have a lot of the sleep demand. Okay. Yeah, so it's whatever the situation is. And sometimes when we're coming from a flight...
You're at a conference. If you're at a conference, I'm assuming you sometimes go to sleep a little later.
For sure. Like the same thing like at the Biohacker Summit, or the after party is there, or...
You were at the after party?
We were in the beginning, yeah.
And then you left?
Well, it's good to have found someone married together, and we don't have that kind of, I guess, that pressure or that need to socialize, because we want to be with us the most all the time anyway.
Right.
So
Correct.
we're just doing it for just meeting other people a little bit. And
so that's the thing is, I think, if you have a partner that is that's on board with the program, then it could work. If you're single, it's a lot harder.
For sure, yeah. It's gonna be harder.
So, what else have you done? You've done the VO2 max.
Did the VO2 max yesterday, the DEXA scan, and the posture analysis as well. That was pretty good. Just a quick, 15 minutes of the physiotherapy, you saw the posture improve quite a lot. And you don't really notice it yourself every day. You don't know that you're leaning.
You're leaning all the time. What was something I'm also trying to improve? What was your angle?
Mine was my left side was a little bit forward, and it created, and my head was also a bit forward, and it created a pressure of 12.8 kilos. So my head was weighing 12.8 kilos based on the angle. The optimal for my weight and height would be 6, so it's like double the amount. So it's like just putting that much more pressure on the head.
I find people who work out often get more.
Yeah, so like my issue was that the physiotherapist said that my right lat is a lot bigger and I guess stronger as well. And I'm right dominant, and the right side is a lot bigger, and that pulls my body like this, so my left side goes forward, so that it like compensates for it. So like the left side has and I've actually, noticed with weightlifting as well. So when I'm doing a squat, for example, so like my left side is a little bit lagging behind. So I just need to focus more on doing like isolation work on the left side to make it stronger and catch up with the right side.
I see.
And of course, like I was also like a bit more tight from some of the parts because of the weightlifting, like heavier barbells. So like you just gotta stiffen up. I've never done like physio or any like this deep tissue stuff before, and I've lifted weights for 10 years.
Right, how
So
do you like the deep tissue?
It was like some parts were quite like
Painful.
intense and painful.
Yeah, calves.
The calves,
I also had that. That was intense.
maybe the traps here and the shoulders. Yeah, from when you're pressing a lot, and like the sides of my legs, those are also like
Tight.
tight. Yeah,
Interesting.
and it's because of the heavy.
Did you ever do any kind of physical therapy?
No. So that's my first time getting. Like,
I think everybody probably needs physical therapy.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely do a lot more often than now, and get the like tightness out. Because if you're too tight, then it's obviously
They did the myofascial release, and then you also straighten your posture, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in 15 minutes I was like almost normal.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me. Is because you're tight in your muscles, and that seems to,
Yeah.
like even your leg muscles, whatever, like it seems to have an effect on the posture.
Yeah. And with the phone thing, we're all looking
Right.
phone down.
We're all looking. I don't know how to get. Like I tried to do that, but it's too hard.
Or you can do reverse exercises to counteract that. So like when you're in a corner of the wall,
Oh, I know. Yeah.
doing like this just to open up, and like these bridges and stretches to open it up.
You find some people who are heavy, like who do heavy workouts, they have a forward posture sometimes.
Yeah, I think depends on what movements you're doing the most. So if you hunch over more, I mean, we are hunching over in everything we do, like the computer, the car,
Right.
we're eating,
Everything's hunched.
everything is hunched over. So we
What's
actually,
not hunched?
Yeah, like we have to just do
We use pillows.
specific workouts to open up and reverse
Right.
that. But yeah, if you do bench press a lot, for example, then these muscles, the four front delts and the pecs, they get more tight and more stronger, so they naturally gonna hunch more over from here. And a lot of pressing movements. If you do a lot of pressing movements, but you don't do any like rowing or you need to like counteract that in some way.
Interesting.
Fixing it to this.
How often do you go to the gym, or you have a home workout?
I go to the gym mostly, maybe twice a week or 2 to 3 times a week. Gym, and maybe once a week I'll do like calisthenics.
Calisthenics.
Yeah, like pull-ups or push-ups.
Where do you do calisthenics?
Where or
Yeah.
or how?
No, I'm saying where, at home?
Yeah, if there's a nearby park, sometimes at home, just push-ups or some of the parallel like bars.
How many muscle ups can you do?
I guess right now at my body weight maybe 8 or something like that.
8 muscle ups.
Yeah.
And how much you weigh?
79, 80 kilos.
Oh, we're the same weight.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Have you spent time hacking your lab markers? What were the lab markers that came out abnormal in the past?
Yeah, I guess the biggest one that I've hacked was just the LDL cholesterol. In the past, maybe I guess 4 years ago, it might have been like 140, 150. It's not high, but it's still something I would like ideally have it lower with just some simple fixes of the diet. And yeah, switching more towards I guess like lower saturated fat and more fiber.
Brought it down.
Yeah, Mediterranean diet.
Yeah.
Right now it's maybe like the last time I did it in August, it was 101 something.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, I think dietary, it's the most
Yeah,
effective ways,
for sure.
fiber and just reducing saturated fat.
Yeah, it's the biggest one.
You on the podcast we did some time ago, you mentioned copper.
Copper. I haven't measured it.
No, but you mentioned that copper helped lower the LDL.
Yeah. If you have too much zinc, so like the zinc to copper ratio, excess zinc, so excess zinc intake or supplementation might raise the cholesterol.
Okay.
So like muscle meat is a lot of zinc, so that can raise the cholesterol. Whereas copper you get from the organ meats and dark chocolate or beans.
I haven't seen it in my results when I started taking copper. It didn't seem to
You didn't lower it.
relate.
Yeah, I guess it probably has to do only with the hypercholesterolemia. If you're like already more
Yeah.
normal or low end, then it probably doesn't have it.
Probably, maybe if you're like deficient, it's not like copper isn't one of those things that are known. I don't think zinc and copper are not like one of the main mechanisms that control cholesterol.
Yeah, it's more that excess zinc is
Right,
what
could-
raises the cholesterol.
Yeah, but
But if the copper is sufficient enough, then it can, so it balances the zinc ratio.
right. Yeah, so I think let's say so you got it down from 140 to 150 to 102.
Yeah.
Is there any other markers that you saw that you were trying to? What was your homocysteine? Do you remember?
It wasn't high. It was like normal because I would remember if it was.
The only problem is the ranges. Everybody has a different range, like an optimal range. We have the optimal ranges. I go through them. So I went through for homocysteine. Like I look at the specific numbers. So for homocysteine, I think the optimal is probably under 9. And most people don't know what their lab markers, like their numbers are. And so you do need to use software because it's hard to, unless you're like actively studying it, you're not going to remember the numbers.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, like the other things are pretty optimal into P, for example. That's always been for me, even if I was like in the past, like the higher fat diet of, even then it was like 0.1 or less. Let's go below that. With CRP, like the lower the better. It's always.
Yeah.
And blood sugar and hemoglobin.
What's your hemoglobin A1C?
I think last time it was 5.2.
That's pretty good.
I've had it in 4.7 as well. But
It's probably too low.
Yeah, it's more like it requires like intensive like targeting with berberine and
Berberine,
low
yeah.
carb diets and those kind of things and calorie restriction. But yeah, I don't think like you don't need to keep it lower than 5.2, like 5.2.
Yeah,
is
there's
lower.
diminishing returns and there's also negatives when you get below a certain point. It's not clear exactly what
Yeah.
that point is, but
In a lot of the epidemiology studies, they do find that too low hemoglobin A1C or too low cholesterol is associated with increased risk. But it's a reverse position, like the people who have some sort of chronic disease also have low hemoglobin A1C and also low
that's
cholesterol.
true. It's hard to tease those
Yeah.
factors out. I do think there's some causal, like it seems like cholesterol does have some benefits for the immune system, but it's mainly important in older age, I think.
Yeah, and
Just
when
seem
you're
it's
young,
lower.
it's better to keep it lower.
Correct, as low as possible, because you're not going to die from an infection, right?
Whereas atherosclerosis begins when you're born.
When you're
or-
born, exactly.
Already, so it's
So that's why the
longer
studies,
exposure
yeah,
time,
so that's why like studies show that for old people there might be some benefit
Yeah.
for higher cholesterol, because if you've already made it to 80, 90, having another couple years of high cholesterol is not going to have an impact,
Yeah.
a significant impact, but it might help you, like in the short term, it could help you fight maybe
Yeah.
against
And it
certain
also
infections.
could be that, okay, what are you eating to raise that cholesterol for the elderly? So if you're
More
having
protein.
more meat or something, that means you have also more muscle mass and more bone density and just better immune system from the
Right.
calories.
Correct.
So if you're malnutrition and
Right.
underweight,
Then you're going to have low cholesterol.
then you're gonna break a hip and
Exactly.
so it's like the
There's also an association. I think there might be some causal effects, but probably mostly just an association and then maybe some causal effects. But what we do know is that the higher ApoB, the particle numbers,
Yeah.
like they actively, just very slowly, but
Yeah.
from the day you're born, they just contribute to cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
So the earlier you can bring it down, the more you're going to
And
prevent it.
you don't have extra health benefits of having a super high cholesterol, especially when you're young.
Exactly.
Like, when you're young, your demand for cholesterol is like very low.
Yeah, and
it's
you don't
very
need
high.
it for hormones either.
Yeah.
Like, I've brought my LDL. It was like at 250 at one point. I brought it down to 58 as the lowest with drugs. The combination of drugs and lifestyle.
Right.
But it mainly
There's no negatives to having a lower cholesterol.
right. So I didn't notice any negatives. Technically, could maybe worsen my immune system in a certain way that I wouldn't notice. It just wouldn't be obvious enough to notice. But yeah, so there's. But I always check my testosterone along the way, and my testosterone was higher for other reasons, to be clear. But it was higher now at the 58 than it was when it was 250. So just, people think, oh,
Want testosterone.
yeah, there's some, maybe 10% it could impact. I think there's a small impact.
And it could be again that you eat more meat or something like that. For the other reasons you
Could be,
get,
exactly. There could be, yeah, it could be any reasons, right? So, but actually, just if you lower your cholesterol, it's not going to have an impact on any hormones or.
Yeah.
I haven't seen an impact on anything, to be honest.
Have you noticed any side effects? You're like statins or something like that? Or
Oh, I got side effects from statins, so I stopped that.
Okay. Which, you're taking the other ones now?
Yeah, the PCSK9 inhibitor. So with PCSK9, ezetimibe, I don't have any side effects. No noticeable ones. There's always like long-term potential risks for different things, but I need to take the PCSK9 because I have high lipoprotein A, which is genetic. And the only way to get it down, I've tried everything. The only way to get it down was the PCSK9. It just demolishes it. Everything else didn't work. You might get it down like 10, 20%, but it's just not enough. Mine is at like 70 or 60 or whatever. And it's like I tried all the stuff that is natural and just getting my cholesterol down as much as possible. It's just doesn't work. The only thing is the PCSK9 inhibitor. So that's how I have to take it. And then obviously also benefits cholesterol. If you have the high lipoprotein A, high LDL, high ApoB, and you have it for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And I actually had something when I did the coronary calcium scan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had something. And again, even though very healthy,
Yeah.
it's just you have high lipoprotein A, high cholesterol
It's just a matter
your
of
whole
time.
life.
Just a matter of time until it gets stuck
Yeah.
in there. It's like even if you don't have diabetes or if you don't have inflammation or
Correct, nothing.
it's just eventually
Yeah,
gonna get
yeah,
stuck.
I didn't have any-
The more
yeah.
particles, eventually it's gonna get
Correct. So
Just
there's
a matter
no.
of-
So I did have wasn't a lot. So it was like 0.6, 0.6. It should just be 0, right? Especially for if you're young and doing everything that I'm doing. And I took it a while ago. I don't want to take too many times because you do get some radiation. Once every 5 years is fine, I think.
Right.
So anyway, and then there was like a few. They said there was like 2 lesions or something like, and it shouldn't be there.
Right.
It just shouldn't be there.
Your age, you know.
And again, I've been eating a healthy diet from a very young age, and since the age of 20, I was low carb, intermittent fasting, the whole shebang, everything, super clean, organic, everything. And I tested that when I was about 4 or 5 years ago. And okay, it's interesting. And then now I understand why that is the case, because the lipoprotein A with the LDL, and then I had another thing, LPPLA2, also mostly genetic. So there's like mostly genetic things that were just all high, even though my inflammation was generally low, so no problem with the inflammation. Insulin is always very low. So you have people that are saying, oh, all you need is like low insulin, good blood sugar, low inflammation, and then it's going to be fine. That's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I was pretty young when I took it, so if you have anything, it's a problem. So that's why I'm taking the PCSK9. I don't get side effects, and that lowers the LPA, it lowers the ApoB, And then I also do other things to lower the ApoB. The ezetimibe lowers the ApoB even more a little bit. A lot of natural stuff, of course. And then I take bempedoic acid maybe once a week, which is another drug. No side effects as long as I take it like every third day.
Yeah, genetic is pretty massive for that. And the people who have genetically low lipoproteins or cholesterol, they have less heart disease as well.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of evidence already.
There's tons. There's
Yeah.
a huge amount. I mean,
Different types of
Mendelian
evidence,
randomization
yeah,
studies. There's all the drugs lower, like most of the drugs that are not having serious side effects lower cardiovascular disease. I think they all probably lower cardiovascular disease, but questions, do they lower overall mortality? Again, when they're testing these drugs on people who are like 70 after they had a heart attack. So it's going to be hard to see what has lower overall mortality, especially when you're taking it already when you're old, right?
Yeah.
So like the average age, 70 years old, you got a heart attack and then you start taking this thing. And what is it going to do in those 10 years? It does something, but you really want to take it when you're like 30 and stuff that doesn't have side effects, right?
Or at least start with the lifestyle.
For sure.
Manage
No,
with the lifestyle.
100%,
early,
yeah.
And then
100%.
If you have genetic stuff then and you need to take it, then it's worth it.
So I try to see how far I could do with the lifestyle. The lowest I was able to get it with just lifestyle was 100. Lifestyle and supplements, but I was taking a lot of supplements.
Yeah, I think if you're like a vegan, then you might get to 80 or 70.
No, even then I wasn't getting
It's very hard to get it to that low for...
It depends on the genetics. Some people have the genetics that it's, no matter what they eat, it's very low. It's probably 70 to 80% genetics with the lipids and stuff.
For sure.
And why did it evolve? Because if you have a relatively healthy lifestyle, it's not going to kill you until you're 80.
Yeah.
And you already had all the kids you needed at that point.
Exactly, yeah.
And then it's also, they had to deal with more infections and maybe lipoprotein A, like you read some things like maybe it helps you heal quicker from wounds. So if somebody's stabbed or falls down, it could have been more protected, but in this bubble wrap society.
Yeah, like evolution didn't plan you to live longer than 68, pretty much.
And I'm assuming like...
And that's the average time of a heart attack for most people, like
Exactly.
65 or something.
No, that's in the modern day, right? But if they were living actually very healthy, like eating good food and not drinking alcohol or whatever, not smoking and not... If they were living very healthy, I'm sure they'd live to 80, most people, right?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Exercising and just, if they're doing things right, they're sleeping, they're exercising, sure they'll live to their 80, which is great, it's fine. But if you want to live to 100, you have to have a different calculation at that point.
The more of these chronic diseases you get off the table, the better. Like, if you don't get heart disease, you might get cancer or Alzheimer's. So you have to like try to get them all.
The thing is, the lipids are going to play a factor for Alzheimer's and cardiovascular disease.
And the heart disease is the biggest killer. So if you can get that off, then your likelihood of getting longer is going to be much bigger.
Yeah, so atherosclerosis kills half the people in the Western world, which is the ApoB and the lipids, the lipoprotein. So, yeah, if you get that off the table, and again, you want to get it off the table so until you're 100, which you can if it's low enough. And I'm probably going to go higher if I hit like 75, at that point I'll probably increase it. I'll be comfortable with higher levels. Again, because, this...
It's going to take decades again to...
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, there's another... It depends what age I want to live to. That's the other question. But it's also, if I feel like I could improve my immune system very well, despite having very low cholesterol, then that's another factor, which I think I'd probably be able to do. But I'd have to see at 80 what's going on, right?
For sure.
But, yeah, there's some people that are like, no, it has no impact whatsoever. And that's why I spent so much time looking into it. But it's just like everything is like...
Yeah, if you look at the studies themselves, then it's just so consistent. The findings are so consistent.
Exactly. Everything's consistent.
You have to do a lot of mental gymnastics to...
Which is what these people do. You're like listening, I listen to them, they're like, oh, they're building up a bunch of theories that are like...
how big of a risk you want to take.
Right. I mean, Look, this theoretically, you don't know. We don't know everything, but like theoretically, if they're doing something else, that maybe. But I know for me, I don't know. I'm not taking that risk.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I'm not doing it based on it. We know that this is gonna lead to this is building up in the bloodstream here,
Yeah.
in the arteries over time, and my lipoprotein, my LPPLA2, I got down with Flaxol. So now all my lipids and cardiovascular risk markers are good as long as I'm doing those things. Like I stopped with the PCSK9 inhibitor and my numbers just went back up. But
Are you taking any metformin or anything like that?
my muscles are very sensitive to muscle pain, meaning berberine causes muscle pain. Berberine, statins are known to, but still only like maybe 20% of the people, 10, 20. For me, it's like right away. It's like and it's very strong, so it's intolerable. And then Boswellia, what the hell? Increases muscle pain. The phytosome one, the one that gets absorbed better. And then there's another one that recently caused muscle pain, Google's steroids. Like I was taking it to increase thyroid hormones, but muscle pain. So I'm very sensitive to muscle pain, and metformin is known to work in the same way as berberine. And so
Yeah.
should I try it out and then get muscle pain? I don't know. You know?
Yeah. The evidence about metformin for life extension aren't that clear either. Like
Correct.
So yeah.
And the problem is and I think the reason Peter T doesn't take it is because it prevents muscle building. And I think anything that prevents muscle building is causing me muscle pain. Like it's not allowing me to build muscle. And that's what's causing the pain. And some people might not be pain, it might be something else. But yeah, I have a feeling. And then if you looked at there's not a lot of research for metformin for healthy people. They're doing a clinical trial, but there's
Well, they didn't do the clinical trial yet, but they did like this, I guess it's observational, where they looked at metformin users who are diabetics and non-diabetics not taking metformin. And they found that the diabetics, even if they had diabetes but they took metformin, they lived like longer. But that was like they didn't control for a lot of other things.
And so Peter Attia spoke about that in the podcast, and he basically said when you control for a lot of things,
you don't see
the data doesn't look that great all of a sudden. So I didn't look at that. That's not something I looked at myself, but I just know that if something is going to cause side effects, and for me, I think I'm very susceptible to the muscle pain. So maybe I'll try it and see if it. Like I've tried it before, but I haven't done it consistently. So maybe I'll try it and see if it causes the muscle pain.
Yeah.
But it's happened. Like I had 5 experiments where it happened. I'm just a little now. I'm great, so I'm a little cautious about introducing anything that might give me muscle pain.
Yeah, I'm not taking it, or I don't plan to take it either. At least for the next few years or something. Because it reduces VO2 max,
It reduces VO2 max?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I
And
know that.
can inhibit some of the response to resistance training as well, so it reduces muscle growth.
The muscle growth I know, but the VO2 max I didn't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's worthwhile if you don't have diabetes.
But if you don't have diabetes, it's a great drug if you have diabetes or high blood sugar.
Yeah.
It's like if
you're like even pre-diabetes, like I would say.
I would take it as well, exactly. Pre-diabetes. But if you have good blood sugar, I don't know, and you want to work out and maximizing muscle and VO2 max is going to be way more important than bringing your blood sugar down a little bit. Or we don't really understand until we have like very clear clinical trials on that. But I'll probably try it out again just to make sure it gives me muscle pain. And they'll be like, oh, I've tested it. It gives me muscle pain. Just so I can say I tested it and you give me muscle pain. But we'll see. I don't know if it will. Just has a very similar mechanism of berberine. And problem is like berberine I didn't know. It took me a while to figure it out. Like I had a suspicion, but I was like, I liked it because it brought down LDL and blood sugar. And then I stopped taking it. I'm like, oh, yeah, I suspected it was that, and I stopped taking it, and then the muscle pain went away. I'm like, okay.
I think it might even, I haven't found anything about metformin, but about them, like it can cause like mouth ulcers, and I would think because the rapamycin, like everyone who takes rapamycin say they get mouth ulcers, and the last month or something I was taking more berberine as well. Like I was taking like 1 gram a day almost.
Oh, wow,
and,
okay.
And I also felt like more mouth like soreness or like scratchiness of this kind of ulcers type.
Have you ever taken
No.
rapamycin?
No, I haven't.
Never.
But I think the reason you get the mouth ulcers is the mTOR inhibition, so you'll have less like wound healing or stuff like that. So you
Right.
get the mouth ulcers from the eating more.
Yes, the mTOR inhibition, that's a little problematic with the rapamycin. I take it, but cautiously, like 2 milligrams, and then probably end up taking it every once a month.
Okay.
It's not a lot, but I'm cautious because of the wound healing. Like when you inhibit mTOR, you lower wound healing.
Yeah.
And so if you're working out, if you're not working out, take it, right? Also, it depends on your immune system, right? If people are getting side effects, Peter Attia says he gets these mouth sores. That's a symptom of something going wrong. And he says that's the only side effect that he got. But then at one point, I remember he was sick for 3 weeks and he couldn't talk. And is that because your cholesterol is too low, or are you taking rapamycin? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is that from? That shouldn't happen. In my opinion, right? Okay, you get sick a day, whatever, like getting sick for 3 weeks and you can't talk. There's some kind of immune suppression. I think it's from the rapamycin, probably, more than the cholesterol.
Yeah. It does work, or it's supposed to be like an immunosuppressor, but we don't know if it is.
I mean, it is an immunosuppressor. The question is, the immune system is complex. It's not even how much. It's the immune system is complex, so you can suppress it in some ways and then maybe stimulate it in other ways. Like rapamycin is a complex molecule because it's generally an immunosuppressant, and it definitely is an immunosuppressant. And because people feel like, I've met a lot of people that had to stop taking it because of mouth sores or like just general immunosuppression. Again, at 2 milligrams, but it's, how much of, if you want to recover, I think it could be, like for me, I'm trying to improve my recovery.
Yeah, it's for the person, what's their goal.
Yeah, so that's the rapamycin. All right, but maybe did his lab results get back or no?
Today.
They're coming back today? Okay. It would be interesting to see the lab results and, and maybe what's going on then. I looked at your amino acid results. There was actually nothing notable there. So, I would say based on the amino acid results, there's nothing to do, which is a good sign. Means you're not deficient in any amino acids or.
Yeah, I eat plenty of protein.
But so do I, and I'm still deficient. So it's
could be genetics or stuff.
could be, or it could be, who knows, right? It could be many factors, but the point is that you have to check it to know. Otherwise, you're never going to know you're deficient on one amino acid or two, or you have too much of one. And so the only way is to check.
Yeah, that's true.
But I looked at all of them. You didn't have too much of any, and you didn't have too little of any. It was pretty balanced. Good amino acid results. 67% of listeners aren't subscribed to the show, so please don't forget to show your support by hitting the subscribe button now. You'll not only be supporting the show, but also investing in yourself and your health journey, all while helping to keep us ad-free.